You know, I've come to realize I'm a big fan of video game history, so I thought, hey, why not make a video covering the entire history or timeline of some of my favorite video game series? I find it pretty interesting how some series have grown over the years, so why not start from the very beginning and talk about the growth of a series, all the way to the most recent title. And this is where I introduce you to my new series called Timeline. And today, we're going to talk about Nintendo's pink puffball, Kirby. Without further ado, let's do this. The Kirby series was first introduced to us all the way back in 1992 with Kirby's Dream Land for the original Game Boy. The series was created and developed by Masahiro Sakurai and his team over at HAL Laboratory. This was our Pink Hero's debut to the video game series, but a little known fact is that Kirby wasn't always planned to be pink, which is why on Dreamland's original box art, Kirby appears to simply be white. Dreamland had very simple mechanics, but somehow still provided a unique platforming experience, even without Kirby's copy abilities being introduced yet. This title capitalized on friendly gameplay, as well as simple platforming, and really set the tone for the future titles in the series. Following Dreamland was two new Kirby games, released throughout 1993. The NES classic Kirby's Adventure, and a Game Boy game called Kirby's Pinball Land. Pinball Land was a very simple game, shrinking Kirby down to a ball-sized form and followed the common pinball formula, but Kirby's Adventure was much more than that, as it's the game that introduced us to Kirby's copy ability. The copy ability allows Kirby to suck up an enemy and then use that enemy's abilities, which is something that became a really unique feature in the following Kirby games. This title is one of my personal favorites, as it had a lot to offer for an NES game, with some great platforming and fun level design. With a year-long break of Kirby games throughout 1994 and 1995, we received three new ones. A sequel to Kirby's Dream Land simply titled Kirby's Dream Land 2 on the Game Boy, and two non-main series puzzle games on the Super Nintendo, called Kirby's Dream Course and Kirby's Avalanche. There isn't much to say about Dream Course or Avalanche, as they're simply puzzle game clones, but they aren't by any means bad games. Dreamland 2, on the other hand, really built on the Kirby series, introducing us to Kirby's three new animal friends, Rick, Coo, and Kine. It was the following year we seen two more new Kirby games, in 1996 with Kirby's Superstar for the Super Nintendo, and another main series puzzle game, Kirby's Block Ball, this time for the Game Boy. While Kirby's Block Ball returned Kirby to his ball-shaped form, and offered a typical puzzle game experience, Kirby's Superstar was an entirely new gameplay experience, providing players with 8 different games in one, and is widely considered to be one of the most popular games in the series to this date. Superstar also introduced copy ability hats, which changed Kirby's appearance based on which ability he's wielding, and also introduced 2-player cooperative and competitive play to the series. In 1997, we saw another sequel to the Dreamland series, with Kirby's Dream Land 3 on the Super Nintendo. And of course, another puzzle game, this time Kirby's Star Stacker for the Game Boy. Star Stacker followed the common puzzle game formula used in the previous puzzle games, with a Kirby twist, and also made use of the Game Boy's link cable. Dreamland 3 continued to build upon the series, with new copy abilities, and some more animal friends, Choo Choo, Pitch, and Nago. It also featured co-op play, giving player 2 a character named Gooey to control. These were the last two games we've seen from the 1990s, but it doesn't end there, as we still got an entire decade of Kirby games to cover. After 6 years into the series and 10 games later, HAL Laboratory decided to take a well-deserved 2-year break from our pink protagonist to develop the Super Smash Bros. Series. Because of this, we didn't see a new main series Kirby game until mid-2000, when Kirby made his 3D debut with Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, for the Nintendo 64. This game introduced power combos. By combining 2 different copy abilities, Kirby could make new and interesting abilities to use against enemies. This isn't one of my personal favorite Kirby games, but not a lot of people agree with me on that, as this is a very popular game in the Kirby series. Throughout 2001 to 2003, Kirby made his debut on several new Nintendo consoles. In 2001, with Kirby's Tilt and Tumble on the Game Boy Color, an enhanced remake of Kirby's Adventure called Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland in 2002 on the Game Boy Advance, and a racing game in 2003 on the Nintendo GameCube titled Kirby's AIRRIDE. Tilt and Tumble, in my opinion, wasn't anything special, but did feature some innovative controls. And Nightmare in Dreamland did a fantastic job recreating the experience we all shared in Kirby's Adventure, throwing in a few new features, but keeping all the same ones we have grown to love. AIRRIDE was also a very innovative game, taking the racing or kart racer genre and putting the Kirby twist on it. The controls were very simple, but mastering them took some skill and practice to get the hang of things. Following Kirby's AIRRIDE, we head into 2004, with the first main series Kirby title since the Crystal Shards, titled Kirby and the Amazing Mirror for the Game Boy Advance. In this game, Kirby is split into 4 different colored Kirbys, introducing a very cool and interesting gameplay mechanic, where the player can call these other Kirbys to assist you throughout levels or boss battles. This is another Kirby game that is quite popular among fans, but the level design can get a bit confusing at times. Entering the new generation of handheld gaming, the Kirby universe made its jump to the Nintendo DS with Kirby's Canvas Curse in 2005, Kirby's Squeak Squad in 2006, and another enhanced remake of a previous title, this time being Kirby Superstar, titled Superstar Ultra in 2008. Canvas Curse saw Kirby return to his ball form, with some interesting gameplay making use of the Nintendo DS's touchscreen and stylus. Squeak Squad also introduced some interesting gameplay, allowing the player to store and save copy abilities as well as combine them. And the Kirby Superstar remake added a ton of new features, including a new story, 7 new minigames, wireless multiplayer, and upgraded graphics. That's a whole decade of Kirby games, but we're not done yet. Let's head over to the 2010s and onward. Taking a break in 2009, Kirby made his way back to where he belongs, on the home console in 2010. This time on the Wii with Kirby's Epic Yarn. This personally is my least favorite Kirby game, but I do have to admit it was a very creative game. Epic Yarn sent Kirby to a world made of fabric, where he was transformed into yarn, and gained some interesting new powers. With the past few titles somewhat branching off from the regular Kirby formula, the series went back to its roots in 2011, with Kirby's Return to Dreamland. This is another one of my favorite Kirby games, as it took everything people have known to love from the Kirby series and brought it to the Nintendo Wii with stunning 3D graphics, and did a much better job bringing the series to 3D than Kirby 64 did in my opinion. This game introduced us to incredible super abilities and really builds on the cooperative multiplayer features seen in previous games. We also seen another new title in 2011, this time for the Nintendo DS, that went back to a more experimental gameplay approach seen in the previous few years, called Kirby's Mass Attack. This game really embraces the concept of the more the merrier, allowing the player to control up to 100 Kirbys using the stylus. That's a lot of Kirbys. Can you believe we just covered 20 years of video game history? That's a total of about 21 games. But hey, we're not done yet. It doesn't stop there, as in 2012, Nintendo celebrated the 20th anniversary of Kirby by releasing Kirby's Dream Collection on the Nintendo Wii. This title gave the player 6 different classic titles to play, and a really interesting look back on the history of the series, which actually helped me out a bit with this video. The classic games featured included the entire Dreamland trilogy, Kirby's Adventure, Superstar, and the Crystal Shards. Taking a quick break in 2013, it wasn't until early 2014 that Kirby made his 3DS debut, with Kirby Triple Deluxe. This simple 3DS title took Kirby back to the handheld experience, and really made use of the console's hardware, as Triple Deluxe looks great for a handheld title. The gameplay is quite simple, introducing Hypernova Kirby, a ability that lets Kirby inhale much larger enemies, as well as several new copy abilities. The game also features a few new sub-games, as well as including a Super Smash Bros.-like game called Kirby Fighters, allowing the player to face off against other Kirbys using different copy abilities. It's sad, but it's true. We have finally reached the last and most recent title in the Kirby series timeline, with 2015's Kirby: The Rainbow Curse for the Wii U. The Rainbow Curse is the first direct sequel we have seen in a while for the Kirby series, as it's a sequel to 2005's Kirby: The Canvas Curse. This title took on a completely new art style compared to any Kirby game we've seen in a while, with a pastel or clay art design look. It looks beautiful on the Wii U's 1080p visuals. The Rainbow Curse is almost identical to its prequel when it comes to gameplay, but to be honest, the art style is really the only difference. Nonetheless, it is a great game, especially being that it's the first Kirby game on the Wii U, and hopefully not the last. Well, that's it for the Kirby series. I really hope to see some new Kirby games in the future, but for now, that's all there is to cover. I'll see you guys on the next episode of Timeline. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. This was the first episode of a new series I have called Timeline, and I plan on covering almost every game's timeline if possible. This video did take a lot of work, so don't expect these too often. Nonetheless, if you guys did enjoy the video, as always, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button, and if you're new, subscribe for new content like this all the time. I'm TheSkullKid, and I'll see you guys on my next video.